Hello everyone, and today I will be showing you the Casio VL80. This was Casio's smallest synthesizer, and even though it looks like a calculator, it actually had a full range of musical tones and notes. So let's go ahead and first hear the range of notes that this thing plays. Okay?
Monomaniacs!
All right. Ready? What's up, everybody? Welcome to Monomaniacs Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Strehle.
And I'm your other host, Shadrach Strehle.
And we're about to blow your
mind!
Socks off!
Socks off!
Dude, we've talked about this before, but it would be really fun to do like morning jungle kind of
Morning Jungle Radio.
Yeah.
No, I've thought about this all the time.
Oh,
We got to get Josh a sound effects board that's just like wolf sounds,
Yes.
whistling,
mm-hmm.
clapping, the me so horny sound effect,
Yes,
you know.
all those classics.
And we'd be like, whoa, okay, guys. Well, hey, I got this article here. It looks like this guy tried to break into a barista shop, or a coffee shop, I guess is what you would call it. I don't really go to those kind of places. Anyway, tried to break in the guy. He wasn't wearing a belt. His pants fell out on the way out. You know what I mean? Whoa. Well, you know, I'm sure that for a certain half of that delegate, you know, and maybe some guys just swung that way. That was a pretty exciting bank robbery.
Yeah, you missed the best part about that one, Shadwin. That was when he closed the door on his way out. Guess what got caught in the doorway?
Whoa.
Whoa.
That definitely is not a happy ending to that story. All right, folks, we're going to go to traffic and weather. We'll be back right after this.
And we will be interviewing somebody having sex live on radio.
Yeah,
Come back for that.
No, that's pre-FCC violation. Nowadays, you can't do that sort of stuff on the radio. Damn.
No.
You used to be able to do crazy stuff like that on the radio, Howard Stern and all that, but you know why they can't do that anymore, right? There's a specific event.
I think you've told me before, but
I think I've
I
told
won't
you.
spoil it.
Yeah, so it was
for the audience.
specifically the Janet Jackson Super Bowl nip slip. After that, the Bush administration was like, we got to figure out how to standardize content and broadcasting. So the FCC basically put down a whole bunch of requirements, like live shows have to be delayed, or you get heavily fined in the event that somebody swears, somebody speaks about bodily function, all of these different things. So the funny thing about it is, I mean, it killed like half of morning radio in America.
Yeah.
TV is just the same as it was, basically. One of the things that they got rid of, though, is that you have to consent to being on the radio or like on TV.
So you can't do the prank calls
You
anymore.
can't do. They used to do these
Yeah.
great prank calls. They were,
John Cena!
yeah, John Cena. Well, the John Cena thing, I think technically, I think it was pre-recorded. It had to have been.
Yeah.
I talked to somebody about this, and it was like, yeah, either that was fake or it had to be pre-recorded, and they had to ask for the consent to it for it to be played, because they used to do this really classic prank, and they still do it in Australia, because in Australia this is still legal, where you would just have your phone line, and on one line you would call somebody, a random number, and on the other line you would call another random person, and then you just put them together on air and see what happens, or like call somebody and then have one side be the pizza shop or whatever, and then whoever. And then they do like games where if like you knew that you were being pranked and you call the first guy to call out, got like $500 or something like that. But nowadays you just half of the stuff that you hear on the radio, most of the calls are all fake or like fully pre-recorded.
Yeah,
Unless you're talking about
that, because like if you listen to like Kiss FM style like morning radio, and they're like, oh, we would like to hear your stories about the worst time you got dumped. Give us a call, and then it's like, we got Sharon on the line, and she's like, one time when I was in high school, and they're all laughing, and then they're doing bits. So that's all probably pre-recorded.
Oh, almost certainly. I imagine what it is that they like that was a Twitter poll or something. And then they just sometimes they might record them in the breaks. But the thing is in my mind, they wouldn't even be able to edit them fast enough. Because if you're listening, you can tell that they're fully edited.
Yeah.
But I today actually went on I wasn't planning on talking about this. I went on a bit of an investigation. Okay. And let me tell you.
While you were on the dime of your employer, you were investigating.
No, this was for work.
Okay.
I brought this up as a potential problem to my boss. And he said, maybe you should look into this. So this is what I'm saying. Either, this is how it's all going to end. Either iHeartRadio is breaking the law, or more people are into Real Housewives than literally any other media property in the world. And this is why I believe this. So iHeartMedia got busted like 2 or 3 months ago, and nobody, like, there hasn't been.
We've talked about it.
Yeah,
though.
we've talked about this, right?
Yeah.
About how iHeartMedia was paying for advertisements on mobile phones so that the first 30 seconds of whatever you were listening to would, or, you know, it'd be an ad, and after 30 seconds you could skip it, and it would just be a podcast, and they would take those listens and they would count them towards their totals, and then they would have it connected through iTunes or whatever, so that it would be counted as an Apple download. And I was the other day, I was like, oh my gosh, I look at the podcast charts every single day, and the Spotify charts are Joe Rogan, of course, because he's the most popular show in the world, but you can only listen to him on Spotify, right? But the Apple charts, it changes like every week what the most popular show in America is. And every once in a while, it'll be something like that podcast that Will Arnett and Jason Bateman are on, or like the Dax Shepard show, Armchair Expert, or something like that. But it's like this new flavor of the week thing. Like these insanely long form investigative piece things, like these My Favorite Murders, which, fun fact, are the things that, you know, there's this joke that in podcasting, there's just this demographic that no one's ever met someone who's a part of it that actually makes up a majority of podcast listeners, which is people who listen to that, because those win all the awards. They have like really good ratings and whatnot. But the last 2 weeks, this show hosted by a former Real Housewife giving life advice or whatever.
Wow.
Is the number one show.
You want to get life advice
number one show in America.
Yeah.
Number one show in America. And I was like, how? iHeartMedia product. This week, number one show in America podcast is this like long form investigative piece about this girl who killed herself after conversion therapy. You know, like very like heady stuff, very culture issue formatted. And I was like, okay, this is number one. Really? Okay. You know, I live in a world where like I'm not listening, or I don't know people who listen to prestige podcasts, but like, okay, there has to be something that's propping this up. Like there has to be a reason why this is considered the number one. Well, first off, through a subsidiary, iHeartMedia project. But second, I looked at all of the social media platforms and I looked at everybody involved and all the people who they were marketing as like, oh, this features this person and this is blah, blah. 400, 500 followers, 1,500, 2,000. You know, like at the height of it. And the podcast network has like a lot. The podcast network that posts it, but I'm like, there's no way in hell this is real. I think it's AstroTurf. And you know, you check out the hashtags and like the Instagram stuff and the Twitter stuff, and there's a handful of people talking about it. But if it's the number one podcast, the number one show in America, when Making a Murderer came out, like that was all that social media was. Right.
Yeah,
and that was maybe, you know, for a time, I don't even know if that was the number one show in America. But the number one podcast in America, literally no one on the internet is talking about. That seems like something is seriously fishy.
First off, this is a false equivalency though, because the number one podcast on Apple Podcasts is not the number one podcast in America.
No, that's true.
Right?
That's true.
That's a niche within the space,
and it's an older demographic.
Yeah,
podcasts on iTunes are traditionally listened to by people who are in like the 35 and up range.
Yes, and
Spotify is traditionally listened to in the 35 and down range. Although that, you know, is fluctuating every year, and the Spotify is getting older and iTunes is getting younger. But, you know, I feel like what it's revealing to me, you know, I'm willing enough
as you look into the bones, as you roll the bones.
I'm rolling the bones. I'm willing to admit in a certain capacity that I might be wrong, that I might just have a serious blind spot.
Guys, we have a breakthrough here.
I know. I'm willing to admit that I might have this insane blind spot, and that there's millions of people who are listening to this and not talking about it or whatever. But it's hard for me to believe that. I don't know, because it goes like that, and then the Real Housewife show, and then the Jason Bateman, Will Arnett show, and I'm like, okay, you know.
Yeah, it is a bit tough.
And the Jason Bateman, Will Arnett show is one of those shows where I'm like, do I know anybody, or slash, have ever met anybody who would listen to that show. You know,
I don't know. I listened to one episode of that.
Yeah,
and then I'd find out whether or not they were assholes, and then if I figured out that they were, then I would stop.
They must not be assholes enough for it to at least be somewhat enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's very
people
popular.
are listening to it. Yeah. No, well, so I mean, who knows?
Yeah,
that's what you're saying.
So I don't know, and maybe again, it's like age demographic skew thing.
The question I have is, right, because we've talked about on the pod, especially in the early days, you know, like how nobody's ever talked about the Wednesday show since that time, right? The Wednesday Addams show.
Yeah.
But like how everybody, it was sort of being astroturfed as the #1 show of all time on Netflix, and everybody's super into Wednesday Addams and all this stuff, and it's super duper popular. And I don't think ever met a person that's watched it, right? And if they haven't talked about it. They're not into it enough to even bring it into discussion.
Yeah.
Right. And so I wonder, you know, if that you can extrapolate that into podcasting, it might be just the same kind of a thing.
I think one thing for the Wednesday Addams thing, though, is that I think that demographics skew incredibly young.
True.
And the reason I think that is
Like
because
Gen Zs.
I've seen her pop up in like children's YouTube videos that get recommended. You know, with like
Wednesday
Elsa,
Addams?
like
Or are we talking-
yeah, Wednesday Addams. It'll be
Wow,
like
okay.
Elsa and Spider-Man and Wednesday. You know what I mean? And you're like, okay.
What are you doing on that side of family YouTube, brother?
I'm not on that side of family YouTube, but that stuff will sneak its way into the algorithm every once in a while.
Not for me.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what you're
Well,
doing.
so actually, the reason was, so it didn't sneak into my algorithm.
But I guess you both have children. So
yeah.
no,
So
it
every
makes
once in a
sense.
while, my YouTube app will sign me out,
Oh, okay.
and then you get like full what YouTube actually is exposure, and it's terrifying.
Dude, that's the darkest moment.
Yeah, you get like that, and it's like that and UFC. It's weird. It's like the two things that they'll recommend you.
For
right
me,
out of it.
it's UFC stuff and Mr. Beast clones or like Mr. Beast adjacent style videos.
Oh, did you hear about what happened in Times Square?
To the Beast Bar? No,
No.
what?
No, this streamer. You should look this up, Josh, so we can get this guy's name right. But he showed up to Times Square on Twitch and was handing out PS5s.
Okay.
Like he just like brought like a trunk full of like PS5s. I don't know how many. I'm pretty sure a lot of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, it caused a riot.
Yeah.
Like riot gas riot.
Like
like,
they had to bring the cops out.
They had to bring
kinda
the
riot.
cops out, mounted police. They did shoot tear gas riot because this guy was just handing out, $600, $700. Like how much are those things now?
They're like $600.
Yeah.
Yeah, $600.
They're creeping towards the $500 range.
Yeah. It's like $600, of PS, you just handed them out, and it caused, a miniature war to go off.
His name is Kai Kinet or Sinet.
Okay, Kai. Yeah.
Kai Kinet.
65 arrests, nearly half of them juveniles.
Yeah,
65
arrests, half of them juvenile.
That is a ton of people.
Yes.
That
Yes.
is multiple paddy wagons worth of people.
There's people trying to break into businesses to get away from the tear gas. There's like this video of them arresting Kai and like putting him in a taxi, and like they commandeered a taxi and they're like putting him in, like somebody smashes the back window. It's like something out of World War Z.
So, is this kid being charged? This guy?
I don't know if he's being charged. I mean, he probably
For
should
inciting
be.
a riot?
I mean, it's fun. They have like pop-up concerts there all the time.
Yeah. I know.
Nothing goes off, but for some reason, it's because
PS5s.
kids nowadays.
These
dude.
gamers.
Yeah,
dude.
these gamers.
Well, and the other thing about Twitch is it's like, once you're on there, everybody knows where you are. And so, New York is a highly dense city when it comes to population. Percentage-wise, there are going to be people in the area that hear about it.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I've seen it on Twitch and are just going to start rushing towards that location once they hear about it. And
Yeah.
then bada bing, bada boom, it sort of explodes. Anything interesting?
This is the 2023 summer of rage.
Nothing is clear on if he was charged. He was arrested.
He was
Arrested?
arrested.
Officers were assaulted by thrown objects.
Officers were assaulted by thrown objects.
Yeah, but that's a regular
Yeah.
Tuesday in New York. I mean, that's not that big of a deal.
It's really funny to me that like simultaneously you've got like a side cut green haired Zoomer trying to get a hold of a PS5, but then also like having enough time to be like, all right, pig. They're like, I might be desperate enough to run to Times Square to get a free PS5, but I hate the police. Man.
crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I've actually been thinking about getting myself a Steam Deck.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, get myself a Steam Deck. I don't know why. really.
You probably shouldn't.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't do it.
Sounds like a waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, part of me thinks like it'd be nice to be able to play my Steam games away from my PC, so I
You
could
should
be
ask Joe
upstairs.
Papalardo. I think he has
my
one and he
wife.
doesn't use it anymore.
Doesn't use it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll have that.
Yeah. If he hasn't
Honestly,
already sold
Joe. Yeah,
it, I imagine
I'll buy it for
he
you.
might have already sold it. But
I'll buy you for $250. That's pretty good. Depends what kind of upgrades we got on this thing. All right. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, talk in the comment section.
Yeah.
Give us some engagement, right? If you haven't already, please subscribe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's actually why we got the boost, is because we asked people to last time.
could have been.
Yeah.
Guys, welcome to the Monomaniacs podcast. We got our boys, Shadrach and Dylan Strehle on. Or I guess when I say our boys, does that mean I'm possessive of myself? That does make sense.
It's called self-care, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I'm protective of the temple.
I was reading an article today about the anxiety industry.
Mm.
And you read the it wasn't the A-head, but it was on the Wall Street Journal. I was talking to some friends at DC. I said, I read the A-head every day, and they're like, a father. But no, yeah, it was like front page. It was like A1 Wall Street Journal today, and it was talking about how there's like, I think it was 3% of every 100 people. So, 3 in 100
So
people.
3 in 100 people
Who went to the hospital, has been to the hospital since 2020 started, since the pandemic, have walked out with a anxiety disorder diagnosis.
Mm.
And
at a hospital?
yes,
They
they
don't-
visited the doctor.
They don't
period.
have the credentials to diagnose.
That's what the
anxiety.
statistics said.
Hmm.
The statistics said they've
That's
walked
weird.
away with people. I guess maybe people interacted with the medical system, I guess is a more accurate way to put it.
That's still strange, but yeah, okay.
Regardless, the problem is that everything's getting more expensive, including drugs.
Yeah.
And so not many people are getting a hold of SSRIs who think that they need SSRIs for their anxiety. And so there's all these people who are kind of marketing and claiming that things work for anxiety.
Yeah.
So like the most popular supplement is ashwagandha, right?
Which I take.
Yes.
Not for that, but
Yeah.
just for general health. But
Yeah. I mean, it's what's for like sleep, right?
No,
I think I owned some back when I had
It's like good for your
insomnia.
nails and hair and stuff like that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
there we go.
yeah.
And apparently anxiety. But like ashwagandha, coloring books, things that you pop, that sort of stuff. And the funny thing was the article had this hand-wringing paragraph where it was like, the FDA is like, we don't know if any of this stuff fixes anxiety. So, and then it just was followed by a person who sells this stuff, and they're like, it's important that we serve this underserviced community. Regulators will catch up. It's like, okay.
Well, so it is incredibly easy, by the way, in my experience, at the very least, to get Xanax.
Yeah.
I did not take the prescription, but I was like, yeah, I've been feeling anxiety recently about X, Y, and Z, and the doctor was like, all right, you know what? So, when it gets really bad, take this Xanax. It just gives me Xanax as a prescription. It's like, it's just that easy,
That
brother.
rocks. That rocks.
Just that easy. So if you're a bad actor when it comes to wanting to get Xanax, then
Yeah.
it's not a hard thing to do.
Dude, it's insane because now that I read the journal, I've been getting hit with a lot
Now
more.
that you're journal pilled,
Yeah, and now that I've been getting hit a lot more with like it's all financial stuff, but stuff about the drug industry.
yeah.
Ozempic
Oh yeah.
is essentially propping up the entire Norwegian economy.
really
The drug company that makes Ozempic is
Oh,
Norwegian.
Ozempic.
Yeah.
No.
No. That's a different drug.
No way.
Yes, it's what's that drug? Oh, I don't know. It's not Ozempic though. It's different. I made this mistake a while ago,
Oh.
and it's haunted me. I think, right?
It's look up Ozempic commercial song.
You're
You are going to get.
thinking of it's magic.
Well, you don't know. That's the bit.
I know.
It's a parody off.
But no, Ozempic is a weight loss and urge reducer drug.
Oh, okay. I think this one's
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
It's kind of making waves right now because everybody. So it essentially just cuts and makes it so that you don't have bad. What is it? Why do I always forget this? When you impulse control.
Yeah,
It just erases bad impulse control,
yeah.
and you just aren't interested in anything really.
Mhm.
Like you just don't want to. You don't feel like eating or drinking, or like you're not like as sexual even. Like it just kind of makes you just mellow out. everything. And so by extension, it's a weight loss drug
Mm.
and an anti-anxiety medication.
Mm.
So it's basically the perfect American post-2020 drug. And now everybody's getting prescribed it. What's that?
It is Ozempic.
Oh, okay.
There
I
you
was
go.
wrong.
I was
Okay.
correct.
I made the mistake.
Wow.
I made a mistake.
Wow. Listen.
Twice
This is
on
not-
this episode today, I will admit I might have been wrong.
Listen. It's not the first time, nor will it be the last, where Dylan says something correct and Shad says, no, I definitely believe that is not the case. And is willing to go to the bat for it.
Okay. Anyway, but yeah, no, I mean, it's everybody wants it.
Mhm.
Like people are going to doctors explicitly for it, especially popular on the coasts and whatnot in the suburbs. Everybody's on Ozempic, and it's gotten to the point now where, as I said previously, it's the company in Norway that makes it it's larger now than the Norwegian economy.
Mm.
The amount of money they make just off of
And this is a relatively new drug, too, within the last few years.
Yeah, relatively new. And now it's in fad. So there we go.
Well, so what I was saying earlier, this is the Monomaniacs podcast.
Yeah.
If you like what you're listening to, you should like and subscribe
Yeah.
on Facebook and all that jazz. So get and hit that freaking bell notification, brother.
On the
Because
YouTube.
I've literally, because
Yeah.
I've for years I've been watching YouTubers who have been like, and now YouTube's not sending my people notifications, and they don't know that you guys are getting the video or whatever. So please hit that bell. The other day I had somebody say to me, I never got a notification about your recent episode, and they are a loyal subscriber. So
okay.
hit that MF bell. Dude.
Well, I can tell you from my research in depth, not tools we've been using to grow our own YouTube channel. So don't claim that I am preaching without practicing here. I am. The reason that is because when you subscribe, initially you get recommended the content all the time.
Yeah.
But every time you don't watch a video
Or you get recommended
from a
it less.
subscriber, from something you subscribe to, then it actively recommends it to you less. So even though you're like, I really want my feed to be curated,
Mhm.
it doesn't care if you're not watching the videos actively. Because you're like, oh, I forgot I was subscribed to this channel from 10 years ago. It's because you stopped watching the daily uploads and then they just stopped recommending them to you. Yeah.
Disappearing. Yeah, I mean, I check my subscriber tab though daily. So
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I get most of it, but I do get a notification every time Mandalore Gaming
Dude,
posts
yeah,
something.
same, dude. Yeah.
Hell yeah, bro.
Yeah,
we missed
that was a
five
terrible
there.
high five.
Rip.
All right.
Rip. And then also the same thing with Internet Historian and Seth. I get a notification every time. they post.
What did you bring today to talk about?
What did I bring?
I haven't
today?
gotten to the thing I brought today,
Oh, okay. Okay.
but I want you to go first.
You've been propping up this podcast like Ozempic props up the Norwegian economy.
Yes.
Correct. All right. Okay. All right. So one thing that's sort of like been occupying my mind space, especially today, because it's the first
the Dylan zone.
This is a dark place.
The
if you
Dylan's-
want to enter.
The Dylanscape.
Yes. Is I was sort of hit with this wave of I need to create something.
Oh yeah, I feel that
Right.
all the time.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
So it was the first day of work where I didn't have like things constantly, cascading against me, and I was.
Yeah.
I didn't have like project after project after project, and I had like a few hour period where it was like low key, and I didn't have to do anything. And it was the first time I sort of felt like empty handed. And I was like, I want to make something.
Yeah.
I've been listening to too many like podcasts and, watching too much YouTube about creators
Yeah.
who are actively out there making things. And it makes me feel so like inferior in that
Yeah.
respect. Right?
Yeah.
Like I feel so self-conscious.
You're preaching
when
to the choir right
somebody's like, yeah, and then on my spare time, I made this game. Right. Or in the spare time, I wrote this book. In my spare time, I did XYZ. And now, that's what I do full time, yada, yada, yada.
now. Yeah.
And you're like, oh man, like why am I not doing that with my spare time if I have the spare time, right? I feel like I'm unproductive for the sake of it. But one of the things that I feel people don't talk about enough is that if you are like busting your butt,
Your buckus.
your buckus every time you go to work, right? Or if you're constantly working super duper hard. Your weekends and your nights don't need to be your grind, right? They don't need to be your second job, because if you don't have the capability to not get burnt out on that, what you're doing is actually making yourself crash and burn and suffering in either camp.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, the key actually is called scheduling and diligence.
True. True.
Right, where I think that a lot of the people who can make that work successfully is because they prioritize, first off. But second, they're like, okay, I'm going to do this in a way that's like, okay, I'm expecting myself to do this twice a week for an hour.
Yeah.
And you just schedule it. You're like, on Thursdays or Fridays,
that's what I do.
I do this after work for an hour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's sort of what makes that's what makes the difference. And I've realized myself, like, I need to probably start doing something like that because.
Well, to be fair though, to give both of us a little bit of credit, we do this at
that's
least
true.
2 hours every week.
But for some reason, when I'm sitting down and I'm making a catalog of my accomplishments,
Monomaniacs isn't on that list.
For some reason, not on this list. And maybe
understand.
and maybe if we're trying to be more serious about this, and if for it to be really successful and ever really break through, then that should change, right?
Yeah.
But that would require everyone in this room to do that at the same time. Something about an uneven yoke, what's going to happen is someone's going to go ahead, and then the crabs in the bucket are going to pull them down, and those crabs are themselves. That was kind of that metaphor kind of fell apart.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to
fell
say
apart
I'm not
like
trying.
a crab at a crab boil.
Yeah, a crab at a crab boil. When you boil it too long, it falls apart.
Yes.
Is that even? I wonder if that's true. Actually, about crabs.
Look it up.
Look
What
it up.
happens if you boil a crab? You're not gonna. What do we pay this man for?
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Jeez. You
gosh.
got bad Wi-Fi here, dude?
What's that? He's not on the Wi-Fi.
Oh.
Yeah.
You
Hey guys,
complain about
here's the Wi-Fi code. Okay. Because you guys are going to come here and steal my Wi-Fi.
Dude,
I don't know. Half the people who listen to the show are in this zip code. It makes sense.
Yeah, and also know where this office is.
Yeah,
technically,
yeah.
they could raid this place for the Wi-Fi.
For the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I'd like to point out I googled what happens when you boil a crab.
He's Googled
He
it.
Googled it.
It's just sort of trying to funnel me into how long do you boil a crab?
How
Do you
long?
feel pain when you boil them?
Yeah,
Do they
yeah,
feel
yeah.
pain?
They do not, FYI, because
They
they are
do.
aquatic animals, so they cannot feel pain.
They scream.
That's air escaping.
So
the
I found
carapace.
out that like I was listening to this video, and this is kind of a tangent on how will we know when AI becomes sentient? Or,
Yeah.
like what are the signs of that? I only ended up getting halfway through it.
Perfect Monomaniacs content. Right
I know
there.
exactly, but I wanted to bring up like there's technically a definitional difference between sentience, sapience, and consciousness. They are not the same thing. And sentience is the ability to have a sense of self and to say, I am feeling pain.
Yeah.
Like this thing that I am feeling is directly affecting me, and I do not like it. And then sapience is like human, as they say, like, art and, feelings. And then consciousness is the sense of knowing that you are being, right? Like the understanding that you exist in the world and what that kind of means. Or I guess maybe not what it means, but sort of understanding that is a problem that you don't really know the answer to. And, you're just trying to make it through. And so, in the question of what is sentient, right? Like you could, in that clear, concrete definition, then a chicken is sentient, right? Like it knows.
Yeah.
It knows these things. Then if a fish doesn't actually have those senses, then maybe a fish doesn't know. Maybe a fish isn't sentient. Like I don't know. I obviously.
Well, they can comprehend it's in pain, but it doesn't feel it.
Hmm.
We've gone over this a weird amount of times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Shad has an axe to grind.
I really, it's important to me that fish can't feel pain. It's really important to me. No, they have, they have nerves and stuff that communicate pain to them, but their pain receptors aren't painful. It's like, you just know, it's a thing. Well, it's like feeling like something's off.
I had this argument with my wife the other day because, I fell down this rabbit hole of, do you know, like all those Verve videos that are like ex-con talks about con scenes in movies or whatever. And it was about questions in regards to brain surgery from a brain surgeon. And so I was watching through all these videos, and what he said is insane to me, but apparently there are no nerves
on your brain.
In your brain.
If you were in pain on your brain.
Pain in the brain. You don't feel anything when they do surgery on your brain. And so 9 times out of 10, you are awake during brain surgery. They do not put you under. And it's for that reason, but also because there's no clear way to delineate whether or not like the surgery has caused adverse effects while it's happening. unless the person is awake and you're like, hey, can you do that thing that you like to do, like play violin? And then if you are not able to do it, they're like, we screwed up. Very clearly there is a problem. Which I can't even imagine.
What is that? What movie is that? Or is that a thing where a person eats their own brain?
Oh, is that like Hannibal Lecter kind of thing?
Maybe. Is that a scene?
In the show? I think it might be in the Hannibal show.
Yeah, where somebody puts a spoon in their brain and they eat a little bit of chunk of it. Yeah. As long as you didn't hit the spot that is for your right arm, or your teeth.
You're good.
You can make it
your
happen.
Teeth? Your teeth nerves?
Your teeth nerves.
Imagine being able to control your teeth individually. That sounds like hell, dude.
I don't know, you could like stick them out, shoot them at people.
Shoot them at people?
Yeah, it's like vampires do that stuff in vampire fiction. What?
So it was a scene.
A scene in
From
Hannibal, as in
Hannibal made Ray Liotta eat his own brain.
he makes Ray Liotta eat his own brain in the movie Hannibal.
Movie directed by Ridley Scott.
Directed by Ridley Scott, so that's the sequel.
The sequel to Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, and it's not Anthony Hopkins, I don't think, who plays Hannibal in that movie, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think it is, yeah.
But
any dang way. Let's bring it back to what I was talking about earlier, though.
Yeah.
Right. So the question then becomes, when
what do you think it tastes like?
Brain?
No, your own brain.
My own brain?
As opposed to just brains in general.
Well, I would say my brain in particular has got sort of a zesty Italian flavor.
Because you're so fiery.
Yes. A fiery Italian swarthy.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Sort of taste that way.
Mine tastes like sludge. All right. What were you saying?
I was going to say mine tastes like piss, but I was like, I think that was too.
Hey, piss for brains.
So, in the question
FCC violation, by the way. You can say you're pissed. You cannot talk about piss. All right, keep going.
And for if the government is listening, and I know they are, there is an FBI agent assigned to this podcast. I guarantee it. Hello, Jeremy. How are you? How's the wife? Be ashamed if something happened to her, wouldn't it be? Anyway, so you just got to put the fear of God into the government, so that they don't interfere. So at the moment, if you feel like there is this gap and you're like, I want to be able to create more, I want to have this sort of additional outlet, the question then becomes like, well, then what does that look like? What do you do? And the problem is that I'm like running through things to do, and then I run up against the wall of exhaustion in my motivation, right? Which maybe is just a symptom of being like the kind of personality that you and I are, instead of our monomaniacal, where like we end up either breaking through the first barrier and being like, all right, we're finally going to do it. And then you start going for a little period of time, and then that kind of burns out. And then you're just like, back on your,
I mean, I've been beating my head against like the same 3 hobbies for 2 years now.
Yeah.
And now that I have a kid, it's harder, but I'm still trying, it's like writing, I go through phases where I'm writing every day and stuff, and it sucks. And it's bad, but I've tried. And the thing is there's a couple of tips that I've tried to do to bring it out that have been not so successful. The one is having accountability partners.
Yeah.
Right. Having people that you do it with or for. This is why podcasting is an efficient tool for this sort of thing, because if we don't make an episode, for some reason our subscribers go up. What?
Wow, weird.
But if we don't make an episode, there's people who pay for this, and and there are good friends of ours, and we're trying to make good things for them. We work on this for them. Yeah. Right. And the same thing kind of goes for writing. And I've been a part of 2 separate writing cohorts that have fallen apart within 1 meeting. Both times I was the only one who brought my required writing.
Classic. That's classic Strehle move
and then
right there.
Nobody ever showed up again. So, that's a classic one, is finding somebody who you can be accountable to, who says, come on, dude, this is something that we're trying to do together. Yeah. Or et cetera.
Which is what I appreciate Joel Calvert for.
Yes.
Because Joel Calvert is really good about launching things off the ground.
Yes.
Like when we were, I won't go into too much details, but we worked on a project recently. And like I felt incredibly motivated because he was incredibly motivated.
Yes.
He was putting together stuff, so I was like, I got to either match him or help him along with it, or else I feel like I'm not contributing. Right? It's like a workplace environment where healthy competition is important to keep the the ships rising in the tide. And so And when you don't have that, it's a lot harder for that individual self-motivation, especially when you don't have like the grind set personality, when you're not like, I am doing this because I will conquer, right? That's not necessarily my mindset on this stuff. It's more just like, trying to find fulfillment and enjoyment on a fun, creative thing, have an outlet with.
I mean, having other people involved is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Right. And then also, I mean, it's as I said previously, and when I was writing the most, I did this. Just like literally schedule time for it.
Yeah.
Right. You're like, okay, this is the thing I do twice, 3 times a week, maybe. And I do it. And, hell or high water. And like, you don't schedule over it, that sort of thing. And that's the kind of discipline that's required. And it doesn't have to be all the time. It doesn't have to be your whole life. But if you want to see any progress, it just requires doing.
Yeah.
And I think that you and I both have a problem where we exist in the theoretical for too long.
Yeah.
Right. We're sitting there thinking about, well, if I was to do it, I would do it this way for days,
yes,
weeks, sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the thing never happens because you're sitting there thinking about it in the theoretical.
Yeah.
And you just can't let that be the enemy of the good.
Well, and I think one of the reasons that sort of comes about is because of our critics mindset that we sort of are in. Because like I ran into this the other day where it's like, okay, I think I know what makes a good X. I know what that is. And so I have this sort of false sense that means I could do it and I could accomplish it because I have that knowledge.
Well, I mean, this is a classic story, and this is why,
a nostalgia critic can't make a good film.
Yeah. Well, I think about this often in regards to music because I am a mediocre musician.
Yeah.
And I know this about myself, right? I do have a desire to make it, but I know I can't, not to any real capacity. And, I have in many, many situations in my life defended the critic as a discipline because it's an important one. And just because, you don't need to be great at something to be a good critic of it, you don't, you're valid. You're a valid critic. You don't have to be great at something to be a good critic of it. You are, it's a good thing to do. It's important for any sort of medium, but there is some truth I think that artists have where they're like, if they get a bad review or et cetera, their first defense is it's just jealousy. It's just jealousy. And the thing is if you were really to nail a critic down, really, there's a part of them that would agree with you. And the reason you know this is the people who go from being critics to being musicians who are actually good. They're not a critic.
Yeah.
They're a musician. Like the Pet Shop Boys are a famous example of this, where they were both music critics. And then they're like, this sucks. And then they had enough talent to where they were able to move into electronic music production, and now, they're kind of pioneers of the genre. But, you just have to kind of sit there and be like, man. And that's the critic's mindset. It's funny because I can sit there and I can say to myself, I have read so much sci-fi over the course of the last 2 or 3 years. It's just like all I've been reading. And I can say, this is good. I can say, this is bad. I can say, this is really bad. And I can tell you exactly why it's really bad and all the factors that make it really bad, etc. And then I can walk away from it and be like, but that person wrote 400 pages. And came up with nouns like Glarkson. And I'll sit in front of a typewriter for a long time, and I don't write more than a page and a half, and all my nouns already exist. You know what I mean? It's a tough mindset to have.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, it was the other day I was listening to an interview with the creator of the Faith games.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Faith, the Unholy Trilogy.
Yeah.
And he was talking about elements of horror that he was interested in and all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I know what's scary. Like, I have been scared by games. I know how that's done. I could do this. And then I had to like really rein myself in and understand that, as you were saying, it's like, I actually am just projecting based off of sort of an elevated perspective on my own knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Or that knowledge is equivalent to talent, which is just not the case.
Well, and despite the fact that for some reason people are trying to claim the Dunning-Kruger effect doesn't exist anymore, for like woke reasons. Yeah. I'm not saying this is like a culture warrior thing, but like it's like apparently it's reactionary to say the Dunning-Kruger effect exists. I don't know why. Somebody would have to explain this to me.
Would the reason be that it's exclusive to people that are new to a hobby?
That might be it. it might be
Who
just
have
it may
opinions?
be
Yeah.
anarchistic, I guess.
Yeah.
Perhaps
I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
It's a hierarchy to claim that experience should trump. I don't know. I bet you if we were to ask any of those lib artists, though, they would say it's important for you to pick up the pen. You know what I mean? You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Encourage the newbies, but it's important for you to actually do the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I think we should transition into our second to your topic just because of the timeline. But before we do so, I do want to say my other maniacal obsession is that I have been trying my best not to mess with this plant.
Yeah, I've been messing. I messed with it the entire time.
Yeah, so like every time we've recorded since these plants have been here, I have like actively thought about. I don't notice it while I'm doing it, but I look over at you and I'm like, it looks autistic as hell. The fact that Shad is just over there just messing with the plant.
The anxiety.
entire
I'm a
team,
part of the anxiety economy, except for I don't
Exactly.
use any of the products, which may or may not be a good thing. I don't know. I haven't slept in like 2 days. Speaking of not sleeping in 2 days,
Mm.
BetterHelp.com. Yeah, feel free to you if you don't like your therapist, go to hell.
My wife actually said, "Hey, maybe we should try out BetterHelp." And I was like, "No,
No, it's a con job.
no."
That actually came up in the article. Was BetterHelp because there's a therapist shortage for remote therapy.
because of BetterHelp.
No, because all of the real therapists are occupied, and so all the sub therapists and people who have a side hustle are just getting on BetterHelp, and people, like it's getting more popular to do the text therapy thing.
Yeah,
Because a
which is
therapist can just
weird.
do that in between regular therapy.
Yeah.
They can just shoot you some text messages and be like, I don't know, maybe it's your mom. Ooh, p'tchak. Get on
Got
this
him.
epic.
Guys, before we move on, though,
Yeah.
want to thank our patrons for
Yes.
supporting the show. Special thanks to our top patrons: Sammy Roberts, Luke Robson, Joe Papalardo, and Zach Amber Straley. Zach and Amber Straley, not Zach Amber.
Zamber.
Zamber Straley, for supporting the show. It's really the only thing that keeps us rolling. Financially is what I mean, is your guys' support. And to all the rest of our patrons, thank you as well. If you're interested, after every show, we record a Patreon post show. You got to be a certain tier in order to listen to that. We also, at the $10 tier, you can ask us questions. We have no questions today. So if you're at the $10 tier,
You didn't ask them questions.
I know I didn't ask them questions. But then again, I feel like no, that's me being cringe. No, you're right. It's not their responsibility.
It is 100%
It is
your
100% my
responsibility
responsibility.
as one of your jobs.
So-
edit the show. You ask once a week for the Discord.
Oh, you also get access to the Discord. So
Yes.
that's a meme. Any dang way. Thank you so much, and we'll continue.
Make sure to like and subscribe.
Yes, please. Do it.
We've kind of come to realize that YouTube is our primary platform,
Which is weird.
which is weird,
Never expected that.
but it's important. If you have not subscribed or you don't usually like, it does make a huge difference, and
Yeah.
we do come up in the algorithm a lot stronger if you do it that way.
Exactly,
So any interaction helps, or just send us a comment. Call me gay. I'll take it. Drop gay in the chat. Gays in the chat.
we had
If you are gay, do it twice.
gays
Call
in
me
the chat.
gay X, gay twice.
Let's make the chat gay. Let's just have a gay space in our chat.
Yeah,
Let's
right
do it.
now.
No, so we got two chats recently. Two comments recently. One from Patreon subscriber Boomer saying that the Hennis episode was an easy top 5, which I was
Okay.
like, whoa,
Okay. There we go.
Another one from somebody who commented on our the Verrill Twins episode, which
Yeah.
is like early show, or
Yeah.
like I guess first 2/3 of the show, and it was like, I remember what name was like Astro Boy 355 or something, like
Yeah.
something completely nonsensical, and it was like, I remember when the Verrill Twins sang a song in class about Shad and Dylan's conservative values. It's all I could think about. I hope you are well. And I was like, I have no idea who this person is. I do not remember that whatsoever. And so I guess I was like, lol, I guess the vibes changed a little bit, huh? And I hope you're well too. If you're listening to this, I do not remember who you are. So please let us know.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. Or don't.
I can imagine something like that happening.
Yeah.
There was like
a
a poem recital or something. We had to write about a classmate or something like that.
Yes, exactly. All right, Shad. It's your turn.
Okay.
What's your monomaniacal obsession at the moment?
So, for a project, I'm currently reviewing a book for a magazine called The Lamp, of whom one of the editors was on this show, Mick Rowan.
I was about to say, I thought you were just going to go through and not mention the name of the person.
Yeah.
Editor of The Lamp who may or
It's
may
cool
not
to
have
be
been on the
mysterious.
show.
It's cool to be
Yes.
mysterious. It's cool to be kind. It's cool to be mysterious. No, a friend of mine, I'm reviewing it, and it's partially because I do this show. It's on the history of the pocket calculator.
Mhm.
And I've been talking to people close to me about this for a while now. I've had the book for a while. I think it's totally, it doesn't break any press issues. I mean, I think the book's going to be out sometime in the next few weeks. It's good. It's called Empire of the Sum. And the author's name is escaping me. If you could look that up real quick for me, Josh. I don't want to speak without granting this gentleman credit. I think his name is Steve. Steve something. But I've got a lot to say about it, and that's going to be in the article. So check that out when that drops. Maybe we can share it or what? Steve Houston. Oh, Keith Houston. Steve and Keith. I guess seemed pretty close. Yeah, Keith Houston. It was good. It was good. It was a lot of fun. But there's one section in particular that I want to spend some time talking about. And there's some headier sections and some stuff I'm going to write about in the article with this. But I thought it'd be fun if we played a game.
Okay.
Okay. I was thinking I got to prep
like
for the show
games.
tonight, so let's play a little bit of a game.
Games? You like Xbox?
You like Xbox? I wanted to. I don't know. I wanted to bring something to the table that might tease this book a little bit, and give this guy a little press on it, because it's not talking about the meat and potatoes, but something that I found very funny. So, after the invention of the pocket calculator had officially kind of reached its peak in the 80s, 70s, right? In the late 70s, early 80s, they started to get smaller and smaller, started to get
Really,
cheaper
when
and
things
cheaper.
just started to astronomically
Yes.
increase in success.
And you could, a good example of this with the technology for microchips or not microchips, but chips and et cetera, and digital display, these sort of things. If you wanted to buy the original digital watch, which came out in the 70s, not the Photon, what's it called? It's from Hamilton. It's from Hamilton. You should look this up. It's called it's like Photon or something with a P. Anyway, it was like the equivalent of $2,500.
First digital watch.
Yeah, digital watch. It was like equivalent of like $2,500.
Yeah.
A luxury product, right? Something that James Bond wore, that sort of thing. And then within less than 10 years, 5-6 years, you could find them in cereal boxes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It was things were moving incredibly quickly. So when it comes to what's that?
The Fusion? Wait,
No. Some of the P. I think it was the
Fusion.
Punch, Sumlock,
no.
Comptometer, Anita,
No.
Vacuum tubes.
Okay.
Vacuum tubes? Imagine just holding a vacuum tube.
I'm going to look it
Dude,
up.
the kids out there that don't know what a vacuum tube is, you look it up. Freaking take your phone out. I know you're already looking at it, playing freaking Subway Surfer instead of watching this.
Pulsar. There we go. Come on now.
It's not on the front page of Google.
Okay. Hamilton Pulsar. I knew the company, forgot the name because I keep saying Photon in my brain, but the Pulsar. Anyway, so things are moving really quickly. And because of that, the market's getting oversaturated. And the cool thing about the calculator is that making calculators as an art, they trying to beat the competition, and calculators specifically pushed a lot of computing and a lot of stuff forward and gave us a lot of technology today that we rely on very importantly. And that's sort of what this book talks about. But at the peak of commercial product, Casio specifically, which is a Romanized version of Casio, which is a Japanese company. So the Casio, just like the watch I am wearing on my wrist right now, which I wore on purpose, this is a Casio calculator watch. Not the first to invent the calculator watch. The first was a Pulsar, actually, a Hamilton calculator watch, but the Casio followed pretty closely after. Casio went out of its way to start the business of slamming calculators onto the most insane objects you could possibly imagine, right?
To try to really make it wide.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
So we're going to play a game. and I don't know, Josh, if you want to turn that mic on and talk, or if you want to be a part of this game as well. I just want you guys, because I've got 4 or 5, and a special bonus object.
Okay.
That is a type of digital watch that if you wanted to shoot for with the bonus points as well. I remember you got to talk into the side. You can't talk into that. Yeah. I want you guys to kind of brainstorm for me. If you're a Japanese executive,
okay,
at the height of the calculator,
what period of time is this?
This is like the 80s.
Okay, 80s.
Yes,
this is 80s. Well, it's on
mid like early to mid 80s. Like the calculator basically had lost most of its sheen by the time like the 90s really came in.
Okay, yeah.
So, but hit me with, what do you put a calculator on to sell calculators?
And if we get the final one, that's like bonus points.
Yes. So the final one is a digital watch that had an insane thing on it.
Oh, like it was a watch with something on it?
Yes.
Like an attachment.
It had an attachment that was insane.
Okay. I'm going to say a calculator watch, or a watch with a bottle opener on it.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that existed. That's not correct.
Okay.
But just give me some, because I have a list, but I want to hear sort of what you would do. We're in the boardroom right now.
Okay.
Mr. Okiyama is up there.
Okay.
It's important that you guys hit the numbers this quarter. What are you going to suggest that you put some of your micro calculator technology into?
Ohayou gozaimasu.
Calculators into a thing, or things on a watch?
No, calculators into a thing.
Okay.
Specifically, the watch thing, that's bonus round. That's a bonus round thing. I just have a funny thing to share.
Okay.
But
I would say the dashboard of a car.
okay, a calculator in the dashboard of a car. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I would say that, honestly, all the rest of these things that I'm going to say are very impractical, but, there's a possibility. One could use that. Maybe you have to do a tip, while on your car phone. Who knows?
Ohayou gozaimasu, Yokawa-san. I would put it on a lighter. I would have a lighter.
A lighter?
Also a calculator.
Okay, so this is not, in my mind, the craziest one, but in the book, Keith says his mind, the most insane was the cigarette lighter. That is also a calculator.
I got it.
Okay. So the Casio did release a cigarette lighter that was also a
That
calculator.
seems so practical to me, though, because
Yeah,
it's like
it's for the nerd who smokes.
No, and it's also a square. It's an object you have to carry around regardless.
Anyway, yeah, sure.
and
Yeah,
especially in the
yeah.
80s, they
Okay.
were much larger, and so that's
Yeah.
like, why not just add? But they would overheat as well.
This
like
is
I
a
don't
little-
flame.
This is a little boring, but like a calculator billfold or a wallet.
Okay.
Interesting.
It's
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It's like in your
Yeah.
pocket.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes total sense. Okay.
Flask.
Flask.
Ooh.
I don't know. I doubt that existed. Maybe at some point it has. That is... That's a little less everyday carry.
I don't know. Depends on who you
Calculator
are.
built into the top of a briefcase.
The top of your briefcase, I am almost certain that existed. That's not
it
one of
would
the
have
ones
to.
that I'm
Okay.
aware of existing, but I'm almost certain that existed. At some points there were calculators the size of briefcases that were considered luggable. But
Speaking of luggable, what about luggage? Like a suitcase, like a.
that's the same thing as a briefcase.
Okay, all right.
All right. Okay. How about? Well, so just so that we cover all our bases in regards to this,
Yeah.
how about a purse?
Okay, that's another object.
or
I'm sure. There was cosmetic cases
Okay.
for
That's about the right
the
size.
ladies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You can have a little mirror that you would use to put your makeup on. That was also a calculator.
Okay. Oh man, I'm trying to think of just like practical everyday things. That
There
you
was
would
various types of cases. Something that could be considered like a purse or a small wallet.
Do they ever have them like on a necklace around your neck, like dangle?
I'm sure that you could just,
That would be.
you could rip the bands off this Casio to
just-
do the same thing.
practically. Okay.
pocket watch, pocket.
What are you looking
calculator.
up right now?
Hey, don't
I'm not
go-
looking at.
Uh,
I'm getting work emails.
Okay.
How about? How
A
about
work email that says, "What about the Casio 8V10?"
How about a cigarette case?
I'm certain. I don't know for sure. I'm certain that existed. That
Okay.
would make sense.
Okay.
But that's also just sort of in the same line as a cigarette lighter.
I know. I'm just trying to think.
What
of,
about like inside a hat? Like you got to calculate your tip. You take off your bowler. Doot.
You take off your top to calculate your tip.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
It's always with you.
Okay. So I'm going to. These are all good ideas. I'm going to hit you with some of my favorites.
Okay.
Okay. I sent myself some here earlier today. There's two. So there's two more calculators and the watch thing, which I want to share. So you already got the Casio QL10, which is a cigarette lighter.
So I was the only one who got a point here.
Yes.
So what do I get?
So far.
A nice smooch.
Ooh.
So
Incest.
yeah, I don't know the model number for this. This is 2 and 3. Okay, but Casio released a calculator that was a synthesizer. But before that, they released a synthesizer that was a calculator. So there's a difference.
Okay.
So the first one they released was a synthesizer that was a calculator. And so how it worked is that it looked like a regular calculator, had keys, everything, right? But if you switched it to calculator mode,
Sorry, it looked like a synthesizer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
it had keys,
Yeah.
right? Like, black and white.
Yeah. You said calculator to start.
Oh,
so
my
I was-
bad.
yeah,
A synthesizer had black and white keys.
Yeah.
And they had numbers on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would switch it to calculator mode, and then you would tap on your synthesizer. The thing is this was a very popular synthesizer. And, Human League produced their first couple of records on it,
What?
that sort of thing. So, Don't You Want Me by Human League, the first synth pop hit in America, which started the wave, was produced on this thing. And it was also a calculator. And there's a section in the book where he says one would like to imagine that after this, they just, knocked out a quick calculation. So
Now,
and then-
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
It is a keyboard with, I got to do the math. What, 12 keys? Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Well, it might have been a full-size keyboard, though.
Well, I'm asking, did the calculator calculate in base 10, or was there some other system? Yeah, it was like a base 12 or a base 8, like
I
a major
imagine
scale.
because we've got 10 fingers, it was base 10.
Okay.
And then maybe
That's less fun.
the last two were the plus and the minus. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because there didn't have to be the separate calculation. Fun fact, actually, there would be 11 because it's 0 through. Well, no, that'd still be base 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fun thing about that is that the reason we have a base 10 system, right, is because we count with our hands. But cultures that don't
have hands.
Handless cultures.
yes, or figured out different ways to do counting, have entirely different base systems. Like the reason why there's 60 minutes in the day is because in ancient Sumer, they had this form of counting where you would count like the tip of your finger and then your knuckle and then one of the arches and then every single part of your body, right? And then like in ancient Egypt, they had, and this is all from the book, so I'm ribbing this, but in ancient Egypt, they had like elaborate forms of sign language where you could like basically do like 1 through 1,000 just through hand signals. Very, very cool stuff.
Yes, that's how I would describe it.
But-
Cool.
So after the synthesizer that was a calculator, there was a calculator that was a synthesizer, the Casio VL80, which was produced by Casio and distributed as a part of the merchandise for the album tour of the computer-generated music of Kraftwerk. The album included the song Pocket Calculator, which was released as a single.
Okay. And I assume this is much too early for it to go along. Oh, wait, no, that's okay, computer.
Yeah.
This is great.
So this was introduced in 1985.
Okay.
But essentially how it works is it just looks like a regular calculator, but you switch it to synthesizer mode and then you can do pitching and all this stuff.
But this means that you can like punch in a formula or like a big number or something, and then you can switch it over and hear it. Can you do that? Like,
I don't know if it does programming. I watched a video today actually of a guy playing on it, which I'm probably going to intro the show with a section from it. It's really funny. But the instruction booklet, because back then consumer electronics came with these insanely long instruction booklets, and it has an entire music theory like instruction section and like here's how to play all these standards, and then like here's how you play some Kraftwerk songs off this album. It's a very interesting setup.
do you want to buy one?
I sort of do. Actually, the finale piece is what I really want to buy.
Okay.
We're going to get there in a second. So I was looking at this article in PC Magazine about the history of the digital watch, and this is not another calculator that's silly, but there is an insane item that came out. One sec. In 1982, the company was Seiko, as in Seiko, or Seiko. Is that Seiko?
Yeah, I forget
That
what
is Seiko.
Seiko?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
own a couple of their watches, actually.
Okay, so Seiko came
Automatic
out
watches.
in 1982, came out with a TV watch. A watch you could watch a TV on your LCD screen, this size, right? Except for it's taken up mostly by an LCD screen.
Wow.
And there's like footage of it like watching baseball. and
Dude,
stuff.
I would watch the Green Bay Packers on that so
Well,
hard.
That
so-
sounds
okay.
like something you would see in an 80s film and you would be like,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
the thing is the thing that makes it decidedly 80s is that I have a picture of it here, so we can't necessarily show it to you, but
Well, put it on screen.
yeah, right. It has an attachment that you have to add in order to watch television.
Like a magnifying glass.
Well, yeah, no, it's not a magnifying glass. You gotta take that thing and put it right up to your face. It's a clamp that has an antenna on it.
yeah.
And so you have to clamp it to the top of your band, and then it shoots, it sticks out, and from there you can,
know
watch the Green Bay Packers.
You know what's
at work.
crazy today is that if I had that, I could watch a Packers game on it, but I have an Apple Watch, and I cannot watch a Packers game
True.
on it.
Yeah, well, I'm partially because of licensing, right? Or you can't even watch YouTube on those things, right?
I don't think you can watch a video at all, yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Exactly.
That is dumb.
They've been
Well,
holding the future back from
Also,
us
though, the
this whole
resolution
time.
is so much wider now on.
Just make
So
it,
it's like
make
a
it a little wider. I
square.
don't care. I don't mind.
I'm just saying, it's just like the watches are square, so you'd be watching it at like
Yeah.
even smaller size, most likely.
I don't know.
My kids have been watching Ben 10, which is like from our childhood. I
Yeah.
think the season that they're
You think,
watching is from
you think he's got a
2004.
calculator on his watch?
He doesn't have a
Ben 10?
calculator, but it does turn him into an assortment of aliens.
Yes.
And
Which
so,
is not nearly as cool.
Is one of them Calcutron?
No, it's 4 arms.
Yeah. Wait,
What a dumb name
imagine
for
how
that
much you
one.
can count with all 4 of those arms, though.
Yeah, yeah.
40.
That's a base 40 system.
I don't think he has 10 fingers anymore.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, 20. I'm not much of a mathematician. I don't know if you can tell.
Yeah.
But this in my mind is probably the funniest one. This is made by Sharp. The model's the EL8048. It is a calculator that is also an abacus. It is
Throwback.
it is bona fide redundant BS.
No. I think there's something elegant about that.
No, there's something elegant about the abacus, and I guess there's situations in which you want to make the leap to doing a calculation that only a calculator can take care of. But the reason why you use an abacus over a calculator, and fun fact, these are the sort of things when you read a book like this that you learn. Fun fact, during the American occupation of Japan, the government, the occupying government under MacArthur, did a goodwill event where they took a clerk as a American Army clerk with a calculator, and it was like a desk calculator at that point, one of the early models. And they put him up against an abacus master, and they did calculation, and they saw who could do calculations faster, right? And all but division, which is a funny specific, all but division, the abacus user won. And the reason why is because when you're using an abacus and you're talented at it, you're less likely to have to double check yourself or even spend time mentally calculating low stakes calculations because you're so used to making leaps in order to work more efficiently that you do that. So if you're sitting there with a calculator, you're going to be constantly double checking yourself. You're going to be doing the lower end ones because you're not as sharp at doing arithmetic quickly.
Yeah.
Right. And so having a stronger connection to the arithmetic makes you faster overall, even if you don't have computational power.
I imagine that has to have a lot to do with what they're asking them to do, though.
Yeah.
Like, there is a limit at which that is no longer the case.
Yeah. No, certainly. I guess with division. You know what I mean?
I mean,
for
They
complicated
hit that
divisional
limit pretty quick.
Yeah. I guess with complicated.
or even it's like, well, we've got 7,532.
Well, actually, no. I couldn't demonstrate it for you now because I'm a little fuzzy on it, but
Sweet,
I-
if you could.
the book teaches you how to use an abacus,
Mhm.
and honestly, you can do that stuff really easy.
Yeah.
Like it's way more intuitive than you might think it is.
I imagine it's helpful for like teaching children and stuff too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like I was.
Yeah, I
not-
think it's something that like a child could use.
Yeah.
I'm saying even though I was homeschooled, I did not learn from an abacus. But I feel like if you are visually or tactile,
Yeah, I think in
Minded.
Montessori we did something that was equivalent to an
Sure.
abacus.
Yeah, like I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the same thing
And
with like a
you
slide.
guys turned out fine.
Yeah, right. The same thing with a slide rule. Actually, it's weirdly intuitive once you figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the idea of an abacus that's also a calculator, and they're only like $50 on eBay.
It's not bad. It's not bad for an
I kind of want to
abacus.
buy an abacus calculator.
Handy $50.
Yeah, and then frame it. I legit want to frame it and put it up in my
How do you
office.
frame a 3D object?
I don't know. You just
Put a
buy an
frame
empty,
about
yeah,
it?
you buy an empty frame. You put them
Get a
both
shadow
up.
box.
Yeah,
Oh,
and then you're just
alright.
like, there it is. It's a calculator that's also an abacus.
And then somebody walks in, they're like,
What's that? And you're like, it's a calculator
Yeah,
that's
that's
also an abacus.
and they say, "Oh," and then they turn around and they walk right out of the office. They're like, I have understood all I can from this man."
Exactly.
Yes.
So there you go. Yeah, that might be like a little silly and listicle of me to talk about the weird
Yo,
things.
but that content drives listenership.
yeah,
dude.
sure. But yeah,
I just like that we get to play a game. That was fun.
yeah.
We should do
I
that
wish
more.
I wish I was more prepared with numbers and things.
Or like pictures of them that you could hold up on a
yes,
piece of paper
exactly.
so you don't have to edit it later.
when you are a few hours away from recording, you're informed that you have to fill time. You don't have time for that sort of thing.
It just happens.
It just happens. It
Yes.
just happens.
There
You
you
show up with a
This show's all about organic. It's about
Yes.
rolling with the punches. You know,
Yes.
the most raw audio possible.
yes,
here on
exactly.
Monomaniacs.
We have a punk aesthetic in a certain capacity.
Look at us.
I am still waiting on seeing it. One of these days, I'm going to find that sneaky punk aesthetic
yes.
in this podcast.
We're gonna mine that vein.
Yes.
That hidden vein
Yes.
of punk aesthetic. Oh goodness. How are we doing on time?
Oh, we are way over.
Oh, all right.
okay.
Well, then thank you all for listening. Yeah.
Check us out on SoundCloud.
on SoundCloud.
I know,
Please
I know.
don't look
Yeah.
up.
I know, I know.
It's up on
Check out our
SoundCloud.
Patreon if you guys want to listen to the post show. We're gonna
Yeah.
head on over there. As always, like and subscribe. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, I for one am excited for Dylan's new fan fiction series. That's actually the whole time he wasn't saying specifically what he doesn't feel like he's doing creatively. The thing is writing his fan fiction. So if you're a big fan,
all I'm saying,
if you're a big fan of the vaguely punk boy band 5 Seconds of Summer, get ready for some real good content coming down the pike.
all I'm gonna say is I feel like there are storylines that were left untold.
Yeah.
In the 5 Seconds of Summer verse.
Well, no,
that I could
she's-
exacerbate on.
Yeah, no, she is wearing his underwear
And the American Apparel
and then
underwear.
their small town socks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Is that all that there is to the narrative?
It's a banger, dude. It's a good
Guys,
song.
why did I spend 30 hours writing this fan fiction then if it's all been talked about?
30 hours.
This is a very rare item, but a very, very cool one. Thank you so much for watching. Please rate, comment, and subscribe.